Everyone. I'm Tim Harris, Chief Strategy Officer here at Argano, and I'll be the moderator for today's conversation on the future of managed services. There's going to be a couple polls throughout the conversation today, so stay tuned. It should pop up on your screen if you can go ahead and respond to that. And stay tuned on the platform for additional pop-ups that might come up. If you have any questions that you want to ask the panel here today, feel free to fill out the Q&A section. It should be up on your screen, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can as time permits. So today we speak with a panel of managed service leadership around the managed services and how it's evolved to date and what's in store for the future. If one thing can be encountered on in today's business environment is that the business environment today is not going to be the business environment of tomorrow. So I'm eager to engage with you all today. So let's start off with a couple quick introductions. So please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what excites you in your job. Let's start with Tanya.
Thanks, Tim. So I'm Tanya Todd. I am the Senior Director of the Client Care and Managed Services team supporting our Microsoft customers here at Argano. I've been working in ERP solutions for the past 19 years in a variety of roles, consulting, training, data migration, and client management, and now running the team for our Microsoft customers, as I mentioned. What I'm excited about in my role and continue to be is really helping our clients be successful. So that encompasses many things: a successful team, knowledgeable team, keeping on top of changes, and helping clients really realize their vision.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Tanya. John, why don't you introduce yourself?
First of all, thanks, Tim, for doing this. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to going through this with the team. My name is John Hartnett. I am the Director for SAP IBP AMS for Argano. What really excites me about my job is the ability to bring our customers from the initial implementation work and moving into a higher utilization of their team actually using the product, which is usually met with many questions and many opportunities for learning. It's really the whole learning process to get the client from just discovering what they have on their hands to a full understanding of being able to use it and achieve the goals that they set for their implementation.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And Todd.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, and again, thanks for putting this on, and thanks for everybody that's attending or watching the recording. Appreciate that too. So Todd Griffith, currently the president of our Argano for Oracle business unit. So that is within Argano, the business unit that delivers on Oracle solutions and products. But for the past 12 years, I was creating, building, and evolving our Oracle business unit's managed service practice. So was a client on the Oracle ERP side of things back in the mid-90s, got into consulting in 1998. And really over these last 12 years, it's just been great to just watch as we've matured the practice to over 100 dedicated resources globally, focused on just delivering the managed service solutions and support that we do. What excites me about managed services and day to day? So never a dull moment, right? Every client literally is different. They all think they're different and they're right. And every day with a client is different in the various issues and small projects and business process improvements we do. It is just a new challenge for everybody every day. And then topically for this, the migration to cloud off of on-prem has just created a lot of new challenges, and we'll talk about some of those. But the one that really has excited me the most is the automation of testing and processes. So just great. That's what keeps us going.
Well, thank you. I mean, you have certainly a ton of experience here in the managed services and a lot of evolution over that time. So we'll get into some of that here today. But let's maybe just kick off. We'll kick off with a quick poll here. You should see it up on your screen. And while we're collecting those responses, let's jump into our first question. So, what are some of the emerging trends in managed services? And just thinking a little bit as you respond to these things, acronyms and whatnot, if you can kind of help explain those as you go, because we get stuck in acronym world sometimes, but it's great for the whole audience to be able to understand some of the areas that we're talking about. John, let's start with you and talk a little bit about some of the emerging trends you're seeing in managed services.
So some of the trends that we've seen over just the past year has been really an expansion for AMS, both for the demand for AMS in general, but also offerings for AMS. So instead of being in this very tight box of just focused on maybe break fix tickets and issues that come through the implementation and the utilization of the tool afterwards, where they run into problems, they're actually looking for more than just break fix. They actually are looking for guidance. They're looking for training. They're looking for further expertise beyond just that response to something's not working as we expected it to. So we've also noticed a trend which may be paired to that experience of expansion of more from AMS and offerings, is we've seen clients struggling to find the necessary talent to bring in to support their implementation effectively, and they're leaning more heavily on our expertise externally. So that has proven to make the profile for AMS more important, more significant, and given us an opportunity to really help the client move forward in a direction that meets their needs based on our expert understanding. Having done this for as an implementation provider for more than 20 years, the many clients that we experience this on a regular basis and what they're exposed to, it really gives us a much clearer roadmap for our clients to help them understand this is really the best direction for you to go to next.
That's great. And I'm going to hone in a little bit on one of your points there, specifically around that access to talent. We talked a little bit at the intro of this, that the business environment today is completely different than the business environment we've experienced over the last couple of years. We've had all kinds of disruptions, from COVID to supply chain to financial systems and rising interest rates and so forth. I mean, I think we've gone through more change in the last couple of months, and what that does is it's really shifted what the challenges are for the companies that we support. So having that access to a wide set of talent is incredibly important. And I was just talking to Gartner the other day about this, and they specifically have mentioned that they project a 5-year shortage of IT and talented labor for the client side of the business for the next 5 years. And that's a pretty tremendous period of time to have a shortage of and access to talent. So, having an organization like Argano that covers a lot of the value chain areas, that covers multiple industries, that covers different technology capabilities, and the way that we offer access to that talent to something that's coming out in the near future here, we're calling it knowledge on tap, but the ability to actually tap into maybe a different area of your business and ask questions and be able to adapt and change to that. So I think that's a really interesting point around, the evolution of talent and the knowledge that's required in that talent set. Tanya, I know you've got a couple of points you wanted to talk about here today, so I'll turn over to you.
Yeah, I think, while we're talking about trends and sort of the changes in that business environment, we will also really see clients looking to expand their footprint, right? Looking to take on and adapt more functionality within their means that are already available to them through their ERP solutions. So spanning multiple disciplines, multiple areas, looking at additional services. So increased demand for automation is a really big one that we're seeing, and looking to kind of reduce paper trails and paper processes and get those all into a digital format.
Yeah, I love that. Technology is evolving at such a rapid pace. I mean, we've all seen the news with generative AI and ChatGPT and whatnot lately, the automation capabilities, the infusion of integrations, and really just trying to do more with less, frankly, given, some financial constraints that a lot of organizations are facing today. So, having that broad set of capabilities to adapt and respond to your clients is super important. Thanks for that. Todd, any final thoughts on the future?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. I think, it's about expanding what John and Tanya talked about, and how to actually execute it, or what I think that current and future expansion of support looks like around those. So related to going beyond break fix, related to the broad software footprint and being able to support lots of different things. Is assigning a team, instead of kind of old days where you'd have a pool of resources and tickets come in and anybody might pick it up, right? It's really about assigning teams and having the same consultants and resources provide that support on a repetitive basis to the client even if the client's just needing fractional, not looking for dedicated resources, but having the same people work repetitively to get to know the client's business processes and their system and their data and the full footprint and how those various systems interact together to really act as a business partner and to act as an extension of that internal team, right, to be able to get the IT department, to help the IT department provide better value to their internal customers. That's really the business we're in, and the direction everything is going. And then, related to the comments you just made, Tim, on the Gartner study and the resource scarcity, providing that fractional access as needed, certainly dedicated if people need it, but most don't actually need literal full-time resources to be able to get them access to expert resources across a very broad footprint.
Yeah, you a couple of good points in there. Certainly the ability to access fractionalized talent, regardless of what's shifting and changing in your business, and being able to tap into that knowledge pool without having to go and try to hire and find the right resources is super powerful. Like the context of the fact that you have dedicated resources that are attached to that customer, and understanding the context of that customer and the history of their business and their processes and so on. And it's sort of that intersection of technology enablement and their business processes they're looking to change or enhance in some way. You've got to bring those together to have that critical impact out there. So yeah, great points. So let's shift gears a little bit and move to question 2. We'll talk a little bit about, on this particular side, thinking about how managed services has really changed, especially from the on-prem world of a few years ago to the cloud-based world. How has really cloud changed the managed services world? And we'll just pop up a quick poll on this to see how many clouds you're managing today as a business. So let's kick off and start with Todd on this one.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so the cloud software platforms obviously bring a lot of advantages compared to the on-prem. On-prem had its advantages as well. But one of the things that has been both one of the primary reasons people go to cloud, but also something that's presented some very real challenges at the same time, is the frequency of releases and updates, right? So your software is getting updated on a very frequent basis. All the publishers provide different frequencies and different kind of rules around that. We'll talk about some of that, I think, a little bit later on. But so it's great to get access to that new functionality, new modules that are being released, and all that stuff but what comes with that is of course the challenge of regression testing. Your production environment is getting updated and getting impacted on a periodic basis, and you need to make sure critical business processes aren't going to be impacted negatively through that. And then publicly traded clients have very specific testing and documentation requirements, or whether that's SOX specifically or regulated environments in FDA or other areas. So to take advantage of those features and functions is a huge benefit to cloud. But of course, with it then comes the challenge of the regression testing. In our case, for Oracle customers, so the ERP, HCM, supply chain side of Oracle's cloud products get updated every quarter, mandatory. Every 3 months, you're getting an update, and you have just a 2-week window where your test system is getting those updates. So it's a narrow testing time to then address any issues that might come up. And so, what we've developed and what you should look for is cost-efficient, effective ways to comprehensively get that testing done. We've done that through automation. Other people may just throw a lot of bodies at it, but definitely the automation and the ability to do that on a comprehensive, thorough, documentable, auditable manner has been a big hit with our publicly traded SOX compliant clients, and is a huge change from the days of on-prem, update it when you want to kind of perspective.
Yeah, I love that concept. We talked about earlier about the shortage of IT departments on our client side today, and they can spend their time trying to keep these cloud environments in compliance and tested and updated and so forth, or they can leverage an automation platform like you created that really allows you to stay compliant, especially if you're in life sciences or FDA regulated or SOX compliance, as you mentioned. There's a lot of regulated industries out there that it's
Yep.
mandatory you need to do that. So
Yeah, and
super powerful.
everybody's got limited resources, right? As you said, and so it's a matter of what do you want your internal people to be doing? What's the best use of their time, and can they be doing something more strategic or tactical that's helping the business, and just offload certain repetitive, redundant, I don't want to say less value add. It's requirements to get through this, but that may not be the best use of their time.
Yeah, like keeping the lights on versus doing proactive, optimization of the business, right? So, offset that kind of keeping the lights on, but really focus their time and effort on those value-added activities. Tanya, any thoughts on cloud-based world and how it's impacted your space?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Todd. So really sort of along those same avenues, I mean, as we've moved from an on-prem environment into a cloud type of solution, we don't have a server in a room anymore, right? Those cloud technologies have now gone into the cloud and into an online space. So we've really seen shifts in the way that we're able to add, abilities to troubleshoot, see issues emerging remotely through telemetry and other types of tools within the space. And that really also kind of coincided with COVID. So a lot of those shifts as they've kind of come, and we've seen more and more clients adopting cloud technologies, we've been able to do those kinds of work and interactions in a remote environment without the need to be going on site, the need to be interacting directly with somebody in a room. And even these types of webinars, et cetera, just really kind of increasing those interactions in a meaningful way without having to take a drive or get on an airplane. In the Microsoft space for the automatic code releases, we do see those are now 7 a year for the finance and supply chain management, the ERP solution, and customers have to take a minimum of 2 of those updates. So if they're not deployed in a timely way, then they do get automatically pushed. So we're really working a lot with our clients and making sure that they're up to date on when those changes are coming, when the automatic pushes will come, and making sure we're getting ahead of that. So it gives a longer trajectory for people to do that testing. And to Todd's point, FDA validated life sciences clients, publicly traded clients, they do have a longer testing window, and more validation is required there to ensure that compliance is maintained. So really making sure that we're getting ahead of those and introducing tools like for the Microsoft technologies, it's an RSAT, so regression suite automated testing, being able to deploy those to help leverage and make that easier and ease the burden on the people doing those day-to-day jobs during those testing windows.
Yeah, thanks. Some interesting points here. You look at Oracle, who has 4 releases a year. You look at Microsoft has 7, but you can go down to 2 if you're in a regulated industry or what have you. Then we saw the poll responses there where people are managing 3 to 5 or 6 to 8 clouds at once, right, and trying to think about the intersection of those things together. Okay, we got an Oracle update, but the Microsoft one's not ready yet, but those 2 systems are integrated, so we're going to have to test those integration points and so forth. It gets very complex, and I think one of the things that we're really focused on here at Argano is taking these great product managed service offerings that we have for Oracle and SAP and Microsoft and Salesforce and so on, but then really looking at the intersection of them, because we know customer might have an Oracle and a Salesforce or what have you, but the intersection of those things together and how that comes together and how we help our customers plan and execute those migration or those update strategies is super important. And I think 42% of people said 6 to 8 plus clouds, 3 to 5 clouds is another 57%. No one's managing one cloud. So the intersection of these and how we help our clients manage them is going to become even more and more important as we have these end-to-end processes. So John, any kind of final thoughts you have on how cloud-based has really changed your world as well?
Well, I think, again, as I was speaking earlier about the trends, and as we move more and more, as more clients move to a cloud-based structure and a required cloud-based structure because of the migration of the product itself, it is really raising the profile of AMS and the value proposition for AMS, because you really do have those circumstances where it's sort of a greenfield for clients, and they need that partner to walk them through and help them prioritize, of this change. And I'll speak specifically about IBP, because IBP has many modules that are available for implementation. You may not have all those modules, and yet the quarterly update, ours are quarterly. The quarterly update would be across the board, and it may even affect things outside of the modules. What does the client need to know about? So instead of having to sort through the entire update and look for all the details, and it's quite large, we're there to help the client understand, this is what's important to you, this is what you need to focus on, and this is what you may need to do, action items, regression testing, et cetera, as Todd was speaking about. And this is really going to help you in this respect and that respect. So not just the actionable stuff, but also these new features that are available, helping them understand. We do have a demo system that's available. We can actually show clients available options of other modules perhaps that are being upgraded, maybe an exciting new feature that's come out in a specific quarterly update, to show the client the opportunities beyond their current implementation, what's available to them. So from our perspective, like I said, it's really raised the profile for AMS. It has dramatically enhanced the partnership and the relationship. It is that quarterly touch point that we need to check in with the client to make sure, are things where they need to be? Is there something even beyond the update that needs attention? So it's been a good help for us, and we see it as it's going to help the client as well, as we continue down the path of helping them get more out of the software that they already have.
Yeah, I mean, certainly one of the major benefits of cloud is that you do get continuous updates in the aspect of capability, functionality, improvements to your processes and your business and so on. But it has a flip side to that, right? It's change. It's enabling, and it gives you more options and so forth. But having read some of these release note documents we get from the alliance partners on these things, I mean, they could be 50, 100 pages long of all the changes and whatnot, and being able to distill that down for our clients and be able to say, hey, contextually, here's what matters to you, and here are some things that are new that you might want to take advantage of, because I know you've been struggling maybe with this process or what have you. So I know part of like the QBRs we do with our clients and so forth are specifically around digesting that into a manageable form that they can then make the appropriate decisions. So it's sort of a blessing and a curse at the same time, getting these continuous updates and having to manage them, but also, how do you determine which ones are applicable to your business and which ones are going to drive, additional outcomes and success for your company. So I think that the mix of those two things together of easing the update process and automating that, especially for compliance reasons, but on top of that, being able to digest the new capabilities, functionality into potential outcomes for the client is super cool. And it sort of kind of eases us into the next question. I think with a lot of the economic headwinds we've seen in the economy today, we see an increased focus on outcomes, often with the expectation of a faster ROI. They're not waiting, 2 years to do a giant transformation, but hey, we have this problem today and we want to solve this problem today and get these particular outcomes. So as we evolve from this, supporting the break fix activities to proactively progressing our clients' business through continuous innovation, we need to focus on those outcomes as that North Star. So how are we looking at outcomes as it pertains to your clients, especially from a managed services division, where maybe historically those outcomes were kind of projects that were maybe scoped out versus an ongoing optimization process? So I think, Todd, let's start with you and hear a little bit about how you're addressing that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Tim. There's one aspect of this, and looking at outcomes and ROI and making sure you're getting the most out of it is for, there's just sort of the, how do we do that on a daily basis? So the frequent communication side of things, we execute a lot of status cadence calls, whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then bundled with higher level kind of business reviews, with the weekly ones being very tactical. What's going on right now, the open tickets, prioritizing those, what's blocking immediate progress so that the outcomes, the tickets are getting closed and pushed through, and is there, what are the priorities, which should be raised up, not just because of the priority they were submitted with, but now to the business, what's the higher priorities. Very, very tactical, kind of on a weekly basis, but shifting monthly and quarterly, we back out a little bit, get to a higher level, and look at what can be improved on both sides for the delivery. Again, this is way beyond break fix. It's execution of small projects. It's looking and talking about what are the upcoming and next quarter, next year's IT strategic initiatives. And is there something from the support side of things we should be planning for, make sure we're staffed appropriately for, we adapt your support team to be able to effectively deliver that for you, to get those initiatives checked off, that you get a good ROI and complete those. And some of these are backwards looking reviews to constantly improve the delivery. And some of them are those forward looking planning type discussions, just to make sure that future support's adapted to whatever the customer's needs and priorities and internal levels of support staffing are. You may be increasing or decreasing, voluntarily or otherwise, your internal staffing, and we want to make sure we're adapting to that to keep the overall throughput, both from a break fix, keep the lights on, but also these other types of project initiatives that might be executed through support, to make sure those stay on track for you to help you deliver the value to the business the IT department needs to provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen even cases where, our managed services folks are specifically embedded with the strategic, direction of our clients, and sitting together with them in their quarterly reviews or their annual reviews and strategy sessions to align the capabilities that we can help them grow on. So yeah, great idea. Obviously, altitude changes customer by customer as their needs may need to happen. Tanya, I know you're using some cool stuff around feedback tools to measure the success of desired outcomes. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and how you've put that into your process.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. So we actually have a few different ways that we seek feedback as we go through sort of life cycle of project work versus sort of the optimization, sustainment types of activities. So when customers come into us in looking for delivery assistance, that might be an upgrade, that might be an implementation project, we start right out of the gate seeking feedback from their team via surveys to really get a measure of what are the goals, what are the expected outcomes. And this allows us sort of to benchmark as we go along that process. And then when we get into more of a sustainment type of activity, we can continue to revisit that, and we do, to make sure that we're still keeping in lockstep with keeping an eye on what those goals were. And, as those goals change as we move through our interactions. So that's one of the ways we're doing that. And that, again, is sort of a more long-term view of keeping abreast of where the goals are for our clients. We also have a more tactical view as we're leveraging survey tools. So we also have, through our ticketing, issues coming inbound via our ticketing system. Each time we close an interaction with one of our clients, we do send a survey, right? How was the experience? Was it good? Was it bad? Is there something we can improve on? We always say here at Argano that feedback is a gift, and what a gift to receive, to be able to see if there's an area where we might improve, or something that clients have a specific interest in that we may focus on. We may plan a webinar about and be able to share our knowledge with our clients. So we really leverage those tools and survey tools in a multitude of factors to really keep on top of the direction and the goals that our clients have.
Awesome. Well, that's really, really exciting stuff. John, give me a little color about how you're thinking about client outcomes, and specifically, if you could touch a little bit about how your team uses benchmarking and assessments to lay the groundwork for driving outcomes and so forth as well. That'd be great.
Sure. Like I said in the trends, this really helped us to discover, very much along the lines of what Todd said. I really appreciated what you said, Todd. And it's almost like you're you're building a relationship with the client. You're getting to know the client. Even the cadence of regular meetings help us to better understand the organization, better understand the needs, because you do target different groups. Like you said, the weekly is a more tactical, the monthly is a little more strategic, and then the quarterly, et cetera. So you begin to get a better understanding of what are the needs of the client. And we felt that one of the gaping needs really is around OCM resources, so organizational change management. And it seems to be, one of the most critical areas of need for implementing. Generally speaking, when they're coming to an IBP implementation, it's a brand new system to them. So you're completely shifting gears. You're still trying to do the same job, but you're trying to do it through a different tool. And so there's really a need for a broader based support for OCM, organizational change management. And so we've expanded AMS to include that as an offering to help clients bring in the right assessment tools and measuring devices that we can to give them clarity as to where in our approach do we need to add more staff, change maybe the way that we're looking at things, possibly training. That's also something that we've expanded to AMS, because those are just areas that come up that we consistently see because of our exposure across various clients. And so it really does become an opportunity for the client to get expert advice of, okay, this is where is going to be the best place to concentrate your effort to get the best result that you're looking for. So that's what's really helped us a lot, is bring in new tools, more science. It's actually, this OCM stuff it's pretty amazing. If you've ever walked through it, the science is pretty profound and shows you really clearly, you need to focus more on this area of how you're executing and strengthen your bench. Perhaps you might need to hire somebody new. So.
Yeah, really very great stuff. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about instilling digital mindsets into our clients, and there's some good examples that we have around that. I think the other interesting stuff that I've seen from your team is specifically around benchmarking. We leverage the American Process Quality Center and all their benchmarking by industry, by business process. I know SAP and has their own benchmarking across different business processes, and really helping our clients understand where they're at today versus maybe where some of the standards are for their industry across those processes, and sort of saying, hey, there might be some opportunity here around, where we see a difference in some of these benchmarking stats. And I think having the assessment framework that it goes along with some of these benchmarking really drives some interesting conversations with our clients and help push them forward. So, I'm sort of passionate about driving the outcomes of business. Been in this industry for probably too long, but one thing I've always seen is that historically these projects were sold under the promise of an outcome, right? You're going to drive X amount of efficiency or X amount of additional revenue by doing X, Y, and Z. And those are, everyone's really excited at the beginning of the project, and the project kicks off, and then suddenly there's like people running down rabbit holes all over the place. They want to get their changes in and this change and so forth. But coming back to that alignment side is saying, okay, we're doing this project for a reason. These are the outcomes we're going to try to drive. This is our North Star for this project. And then really kind of resetting and realigning as you're going through requirements, and as you're going through process definition, and as you're going through even design elements, to make sure that you're moving in the direction of achieving those outcomes, I think is super powerful. And I don't think that's necessarily done very well in this industry today. And it's something that we're heavily focused on to really make sure that we are driving the appropriate outcomes for our clients. And then, of course, post-implementation, what I've seen a lot of times in the past working for other organizations and so forth is that you go live and everyone just has a big sigh of relief because it's live and you're done, and you have a little stabilization, and then kind of everyone disappears and you're like, well, hold on a second, did we achieve those outcomes? Is there optimization that needs to happen? Is there additional things that we need to do to maybe fine tune that to get to the result that we're desiring? And I think that handoff between project and managed services is super powerful. And I know what I've seen really successful across all of Argano is the integration of our managed services team with our project delivery teams to make sure that handoff is super streamlined, and we really understand the outcomes we're trying to drive. and make sure we're continuing to measure those, post go live as we move into that managed services world, because there's always fine tuning that can happen. There's always little tweaks and adjustments that will help drive towards those results. I mean, ultimately, our client success is achieving these outcomes, and I think if we can help them achieve that in the most expeditious way possible, then we're doing our job effectively out there. So, I love all the feedback components around how we do this and how we can measure things and how we can gain feedback and how we can benchmark. But that interaction between project teams, managed services around these outcomes is super important. So I love the work that you're all doing in this space, and I'm excited to see what comes up next. Let's move on to the next question here. So here at Argano, we kind of have a general philosophy of investing in technology as an enabler to create a high level of client impact and a top-end people experience. So I want to talk a little bit about some technologies that have a potential to impact our managed services world. And it's a little bit about what we were talking about before around benchmarking and understanding, where our clients are. There's a lot of process mining technology that's really starting to evolve. And of course, artificial intelligence that's out there today. And I think we'll pop up a quick poll on this to see if anyone's actually leveraging process mining techniques as part of your process improvement today. I'd love to see if you're doing that. But, we've seen big investments from companies like Microsoft, who's acquired, I think it's pronounced Minute, it could be Minute, but it's one of those two. And then SAP acquired Signavio and are really embedding that into their application as a way of measuring business processes and looking at it against benchmarks to help clients and help others identify where there may be inefficiencies, where there may be a breakdown in the process that's causing challenges in their business. So how do we take these components together, and how do we tightly integrate them with our clients and have these conversations? Tanya, I'd love to turn over to you maybe and just hear a little thoughts around maybe what you're thinking of from a process mining perspective or AI perspective as you see it related to managed services.
Sure, thank you. So I can speak about, where Microsoft is so far as these shifts in technology. And certainly, as you mentioned, Tim, Microsoft has recently acquired a process mining organization, and some of that functionality is already in a preview state today to allow us to start evaluating where we can see gains and improvements. So by leveraging the process mining, it does couple with the Power Automate features within the Power Platform, and enables you to really see within your ERP what processes are being leveraged today. So that really can, in the future state, help us to outline and uncover opportunities for process improvement, opportunities for efficiencies, et cetera. And it might even uncover training opportunities where things maybe aren't being used in the most optimized way. So I think we're going to really see that start shifting in the technologies as that starts to gain more traction, enabling us again to start uncovering or seeing issues maybe before they're even really starting to bubble up through the surface of the organization. So that's the process mining. And then, on the flip side with the AI, so the chat GPT is the big buzzword out there today. And we're already seeing integrations with chat GPT into the Microsoft CRM space. So leveraging that for portals, for that sort of natural business language. But there are pretty far reaching implications or applications that we might be using those kinds of AI tools for, and again, uncovering trends, identifying areas to maybe shine the lens on a little more, and that's only going to continue increasing as the adoption picks up.
Yeah, the continuous improvement cycle within a business really requires not only our clients' input, because sometimes that just ends up being the person that screams the loudest, but how do you identify the priorities that will really have the impact that you want in your business? And I think tools like process mining that give you that visibility. And I love your add-on there around potential training opportunities, right? To see where maybe there's a breakdown in process, or maybe not. it's not being utilized at the same levels that you would expect, it's an opportunity to get in there and maybe retrain or help them with their process in some way that maybe drives that adoption in a more successful way, on top of just looking for the efficiencies of what you can drive from a business process perspective. So yeah, I love that concept and idea of identifying maybe training needs or other things with the tool as well. Todd, let's switch over to you. Just get your thoughts on these.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely a hot topic, right? Obviously, not just in the news, but yeah, clients are asking about it, and very early days, looking into ways to leverage, these technologies. Oracle has started introducing some AI within the software. They actually call it adaptive intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. It kind of an example or simple example that exists now is on the finance side of things, and the software will help suggest when it's maybe beneficial for you to take advantage, or recommendations for when to take advantage of vendor quick pay discounts or things like that. There's some chatbot features and things like that as well, but definitely just in some early stage of software functionality. The Oracle database has had AI and its self-management for a very long time, right? It's a self-managing database to keep the database tuned and all that has existed, and that's AI for a very long time. For us on the managed service side, one of the areas we're looking into it, and it may not be obvious to people that this, could be a use for it, is around automation, further automation of regression testing. And it's really to see if we can come up with a way to use AI to figure out what clients' processes are, to put the scripts together to fit their processes, or to take, because every time we spin up a new customer and we're automating their regression testing for those quarterly updates, we take our library of content, that content being automated scripts, and we adapt it to customer systems. And it's intriguing, but very, very, very early on. We're like just starting to look into this, but it's intriguing to see if there's a way to have the technology do the adaptation. And right. And then even taking that then a step further than maintaining those. So as the software is updated and some things come out every quarter, it's another reason to outsource this, we adapt those scripts to keep them automated with the changes in the software. Again, it'd be nice to have a bot do that for us. I can envision that down the road. We are definitely not there yet. And then since we're doing that, and it's related to some of the things Tanya talked about, getting feedback on suggestions for improvements to the business processes that would leverage the software even better, right?
Yeah.
So just exciting times. It's interesting to envision what the future will be, but very, very early.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you think about the process mining being able to assess the current status of what your organization is doing from a process perspective. Then you combine that with the benchmarking capabilities for your industry by process. And then you add in artificial intelligence on top of that to identify potential trends, issues, and impacts to your business, right? Like you put those three things together. And I know we're starting to look at some of this stuff today, but being able to have artificial intelligence, essentially point you in the right direction. This has a potential impact of, X millions of dollars if you fix this process. This here is 50% below standard. If you moved it to within 10% of standard, here's what your new results might look like. Those types of recommendations. Artificial intelligence is phenomenal at finding patterns and dependencies that may not be easily visible or explainable by the average person unless they're really digging into it, right? So just getting that visibility side of things, when you combine it with what we're being able to pull from a telemetry perspective from these systems using process mining, it's super compelling and really helps prioritize and point our teams in the right direction to providing that high level of client impact that we're looking to drive. John, any kind of final thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I thoroughly agree that the area of AI is extremely exciting, and I'm sort of thankful and reassured by the fact that our partners, Microsoft, SAP, and Oracle, are already on the forefront. I mean, with what you just said, Todd, about Oracle having using their own internal AI for a decade, if not decades. But it's just good to know that they're on the forefront, looking into it, learning more about it. How is it going to be best utilized? The first thing that comes to my mind really is better heuristics. A tighter probabilities, a clearer vision, a better understanding of this is where you're going to get the best bang for the buck and the best shifting of your plan, or maybe even your forecast, right? So one thing that we're considering is that, if you've looked at ChatGPT or you've looked at some of the AI that's available, at least for me, I can tell that it's fake. I can tell that there's a mistake. I can tell that somebody says this word and maybe it hears another word and it goes in a completely different direction. It seems to be all about what is the database that it's mining, what is the data that it's building to make its decisions from, right? And so if we use something like APQC with tens of thousands of data points that we can focus on and bring in, which SAP, the amount of data we have at our disposal is just off the chart. So the ability to apply the ChatGPT or the AI, depending upon what the specifics we're talking about for AI, I just think the potentials they're kind of unfathomable. I think we're really at almost this point of a big shift, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's coming. But I also feel like it's sort of incumbent upon us as leaders to learn more about it. There's a lot happening. My understanding is it's changing very quickly, because its capacity to learn on its own just continues, nonstop. And we need to pay attention to what's happening and where it's going, so that we can provide the right solutions to our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's partially why we formed in our guild system here today, which is really where we collect experts together for certain topics. We've started a generative AI group, and it's amazing to see just how much across our business people are already doing. You look at it from the top level, you're like, oh, we're probably doing something a little bit here and there. I look at my marketing department, they're leveraging it every day. I look at our integration teams and our data teams, they're leveraging it on a daily basis. Our QA teams are looking at potentially leveraging it for quality checks against code to make sure it's falling within coding standards and so forth. So, I mean, I think we're very at the impetus of ChatGPT and a massive amount of investment that's going into not only the products from the providers like Microsoft and Salesforce and SAP, Oracle, et cetera. They're going to embed these processes in there. But then I think when we look at it from our internal process perspective, how do we inject, some of this generative AI into our processes to, provide a better experience for our clients and managed services or what have you? I think there's a lot of opportunities around, Q&A type forums and being able to provide access to generated content on demand and so forth, that we have incredible amounts of information on. It's just a matter of mining it and presenting it in a way to a client that makes sense in that moment, in that context. And I think that's going to be super exciting as we look at the future of this. And I think most of this stuff is weeks away versus years away, so it's pretty incredible to see the rapid innovation of GPT and the embedding that's happening across the different providers out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's, I think we've got our final question here, which is, when we think about the adoption and effective utilization of technology, we think about change management. I think John and you touched on this earlier, and Todd, you did as well. But that change management, that process optimization, and the role that plays in transformational success. So, I'd love to hear a little bit about what role does process change and really putting it and changing the cultural, digital mindsets of our clients, how to think digitally, how to solve problems digitally, how to do that. And that's a big part of our change management platform. So let's talk a little bit about, how that plays in the success of our managed services platform. And Tanya, I'll start with you and maybe have you kick off, and then we'll go to Todd and John.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. So I think, as we look at change within organizations, and we see it time and time again, process change is disruptive. even though you may or hopefully are getting to a better state in the future, there is disruption to get there. People are comfortable. They're familiar with their day-to-day. They're familiar with where the button clicks are on the screen and the process that they're going to take to get from the start to finish of those things that they're doing. And they do become very habitual, very automatic for clients. So when we start introducing change of any kind, whether it be adoption of new features, whether it be adoption of technology, and even those updates that we talked about, those cyclical kinds of updates, change management is important to be considering. So this really helps to ensure that users are on board, to make sure that you've got alignment within your organization. Why are we doing this? Where are we going to get to that's going to put us in a better state at the end of it and help lead to better successful results? So, we want to measure adoption. We want to identify and really cultivate a change manager champion, right? A champion of change that can help really perpetuate that within the organization, build excitement, and keep people really aligned with the end goal of the future better state of why that change is happening.
I love that. It's certainly a critical aspect to our clients' success. Todd, I know you've been passionate about OCM for quite some time, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you've integrated it within managed services as well.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that, Tim. And Tanya nailed it. OCM is a big deal, right? I get the Captain Obvious statement here. It's to integrate it into delivery, whether that's project or managed services support, ongoing support is just critical, right? Your cloud investment is an ongoing investment. It is, again, one of those things that's a lot different from the on-prem days because of the update cycles, because new functionality is coming out all the time, and you're trying to keep improving. And it is a continuous improvement process. You only get that if all of this gets adopted, right? And if everything you've done, we could put, I tell customers at the beginning of projects, at the beginning of support, I tell customers this all the time, and that is, you could have picked the absolute best system in the world, and we can nail configuration and data flows and get it all exactly right. But if it doesn't get adopted, you've just put a big pile of money in the middle of the room and lit it on fire and wasted it all. Right? So communications are key. Tanya mentioned the why, huge word, right? You need to be able to present the why something is changing, what's in it for the users, what's in it for the business, what's in it for management, what's in it for executive management, but really down to the individual. Why is this a good thing for them? And it might mean somebody needs to do a little more work. So somebody downstream, is doing less, and you have better information available and processes flow better to the overall organization. So communications is key. Training, effective and available training is key. And that's not one-time training. That includes embedding training into the software, making training, and most of these cloud products will have that, or there are other solutions, partner solutions, where you can have training content that becomes embedded into the software, because the user can then get to it when they actually need it, not try to go find the notebook that they held on to coming out of a training class 6 months ago. And then also learn what works for your culture, improve your OCM based on your past OCM efforts. We will almost always start, especially on the project side of things, when there's this major OCM effort that's likely to be needed, we'll start with executive alignment and survey work to find out what'd you do in the past and what of that worked well and what didn't work well and where are there opportunities for improvement. Keep doing that, right? Again, that's an ongoing, constant optimization. It's never a one-time thing, and every client's culture is a little different. And so we adapt to all of that through the execution and continue to adapt the OCM side of this with very real, concrete, discrete deliverables, and that to again, all with the mindset of improving adoption at the end of the day, going back to outcome result, ROI and ensuring outcomes and things like that.
Yeah, and I love the concept of how OCM helps realize those outcomes in a more effective manner. And we've got great tools and methodologies and approaches to make all that happen. I think one of the measures of success is yes, okay, we achieved the outcome, we gave you some more additional revenue, we optimized your processes, et cetera. But the leave behind that we can really impact our clients for is when we change the everyday process owner to think digitally. You know, they're moving from maybe a paper-based process or a very Excel-based, a lot of time process where they're making decisions and so forth, to actually leveraging the technology as a means to be able to make decisions more effectively, efficiently, and so forth. And I want to share just a very quick story here about this. We're working with one of the major CPG companies. They had 7 different divisions. We were working on their supply chain forecasting and approach, and they had purchased a bunch of supply chain modules from SAP. And they were just, what they were basically doing is they were, as a group, they were meeting, they were putting everything in Excel, and they were loading it into this very expensive SAP tool and essentially just using it as a way of dumping their outputs so that they'd done all these manual process for. And what we ended up doing as an organization is we went in there and of course we trained them on the tool, like how to use it properly. But then we actually did some really unique things. We actually sat down and we reorganized their meeting structures. We said, okay, here are the meetings you need to have to plan properly from a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, and an annual basis. Here's who needs to be involved in that decision. And we ran those meetings with the technology for about a month or two with them shadowing. And then we had them run the meetings and we shadowed them and gave them support and guidance. And a really interesting thing happened at the end of that. First of all, it revolutionized their whole supply chain planning process. What they can do now from a long-term planning perspective is light years ahead of what they were able to do previously. And they were doing with all kinds of short-term planning and scrambling, and people were running around trying to fix things all the time. And they got into a much more consistent route. But I think more importantly, the VP of global supply chain actually went to the CIO after that project, and he's got all these digital ideas of how to run his process more effectively now. So what ended up happening is not only did we achieve the outcomes and the utilization of the technology properly, but we instilled a digital mindset into the people that were doing that job on a day-to-day basis using our OCM tactics that essentially allows them to think differently about how to solve problems going forward. And now it used to be us pushing all the time projects on them. You should do this, you should do this, you should do this. It's almost flipped now. Because they have that digital mindset, they're coming to us and saying, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And we think we can use this data point, we can use this, and we can use that to do these things. And I think it's a nuance in OCM, but it's an incredibly powerful capability when you change someone's ability to think differently of how they leverage technology in their day-to-day decision making. And I love some of these examples, and I wish we had more time. We got 3 minutes left. I would tell about 100 more stories, but that was just one simple example where I think OCM really shines in terms of the impact out there. So maybe just quickly, I'd love to just, I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but maybe final thoughts. I'll open it up, whoever wants to jump in first on any kind of final thoughts to leave people with as we wrap up here today.
I did want to add on OCM, the one thing that we've discovered is that, OCM at one point was a bit of a buzzword, and we've incorporated into both our implementation projects and the process of transitioning from a project to AMS, the handoff, analysis from an OCM perspective that actually, again, brings science to the implementation to give us a clear map. Do you have the necessary resources to support this process, right, to help the client become more familiar with the nomenclature, understand and gain that keyword that you guys keep using is mindset? Do they have the proper mindset? Because if they don't, we need to reinforce that and keep coming back to that. That exercise you did was just phenomenal, and congratulations. That's such an outstanding example of the way to get them into the right mindset so that they really can use the tool for what it was designed to do, right? So just an amazing, and you're right, our experience has been that the value for OCM is highly underappreciated, generally speaking. So we've made it a consistent emphasis in our implementations.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, John?
Just really appreciate this. Appreciate this group. Appreciate the opportunities we have, the resources we have. Would love to talk more about any of this if anybody's interested. and just appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to anything that you want to talk about after this.
Thanks, John. Todd, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so just the one thought I guess I'll leave with is kind of almost going all the way back to your first question about what excites you. I mean, the one thing I didn't mention that got reinforced in one of the polls about, you know, the number of cloud systems that the customers are running, and the ability that we have to deliver across that whole footprint in an integrated way, single source of delivery and all. You know, we all come from sort of some isolated backgrounds before getting to Argano, and now having the ability to deliver across much broader footprints is real exciting to be able to, you know, there's a lot of pressure on customers to reduce the number of vendors they have. And this is, it's exciting to be able to help them with that process and provide integrated support across a real broad platform.
Awesome. Thank you. Tanya.
Thank you. I think I really echo those sentiments. And also, as we're talking about changes in technology, it is very exciting to see the rapid way we're seeing these changes come into the services that we're offering. And there really, in my mind, is no stop to that. So I'm excited to see what's around the corner and how we can continue to support our clients into these new areas in the future.
Yeah, thank you all for your time and your thought leadership on this here today. You know, for me, it's a couple different things. It's one, how do we leverage technology to make a higher impact for our clients? How do we give our clients access to the incredible amount of talent across multiple clouds that our organization provides, and do that in an easy way that allows them to get answers quickly and rapidly? And I think a lot about, you know, our organizational change management, and specifically instilling those digital mindsets into our clients so they can be successful and they can think differently and they can, you know, adapt to the challenges of the working environment out there today. So I'll wrap with that. And I want to thank you all for participating here today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at info@argano.com, or check us out at argano.com, and we'll go from there. So appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.